I think I need a root canal. I'm sure I need a long, slow root canal.
Supping it, Raggedy Adams here. Now I'm aware it's been a couple of weeks since I posted anything, and the honest answer for that is I've been pretty busy. Quite apart from my normal uni workload, I've also been involved in a couple of different projects. I'm going to be in a production of Little Shop of Horrors in less than a week. I know. So in order to better promote the show, and because there are probably still people in the world who don't know anything about Little Shop of Horrors, I thought I'd make a quick vlog about some interesting facts that I happen to know about the show and about the source material that inspired it. So here we go. This video is going to contain some pretty heavy spoilers for the films and the musical, so fair warning.
Let's take a look at that mouth. Say
Now most people who know about Little Shop of Horrors will be familiar with the musical film that came out in 1986, directed by Frank Oz. However, the original source material that inspired it was a film that came out in the 1960s, also called The Little Shop of Horrors, which was directed and produced by low-budget filmmaker Roger Corman and written by Charles Griffith. During the 1960s and the 1970s, Roger Corman was essentially the king of B-movies. He produced cheap, low-budget films very quickly on very modest budgets, but one of the things that sets him apart from most low-budget filmmakers is that he has worked with, and in many cases started the careers of, many people who have gone on to become even more famous than he was. I mean, he is widely regarded as the man who began the careers of many famous directors and actors, from James Cameron and Francis Ford Coppola, Joe Dante, Jonathan Demme, Curtis Hanson, Monty Hellman, Jack Hill, Ron Howard, Gale Ann Hurd, Nicholas Roeg, John Sayles, Martin Scorsese, Robert Towne, Jack Nicholson, Peter Fonda, Bruce Dern. So many name stars that we recognise today got their earliest breaks in Roger Corman produced or directed films, and many of the filmmakers that he worked with would often refer to the style of filmmaking that he championed to them and taught them to do as the Roger Corman Film School. And Corman is often quoted as saying, "Other writers, producers and directors of low-budget films would often put down the film they were making, saying it was just something to make money with. I never felt that. If I took the assignment, I'd give it my best shot." And whilst he was known for his B-movie horror films such as Little Shop and the various Edgar Allan Poe adaptations that he made, he also made such films as Ron Howard's debut film, Grand Theft Auto, and Martin Scorsese's Boxcar Bertha. And so the original Little Shop of Horrors gained the traction that it did through a combination of appearing on television frequently and being a sort of a cult classic, almost a camp classic, due to its minimal effects and a very early appearance from Jack Nicholson in one of his earliest roles as a masochist patient at a dentist's office.
Oh my God, don't stop now!
Now, aside from the aforementioned Jack Nicholson, the original film didn't have very many well-known actors in it at all. It was mostly made up of second banana type people like Jonathan Hayes and Mel Wells. However, the remake based on the musical featured an all-star cast, including the likes of Rick Moranis, Vincent Gardenia, Steve Martin, Levi Stubbs of the group Four Tops, James Belushi, John Candy, Kristen Guest, Bill Murray, Miriam Margolyes, and Danny John Jules. However, it also featured Ellen Greene in the role of Audrey, who originated the role in the off-Broadway musical and was cast in the role simply because Frank Oz, the director, couldn't find anybody else who fit the bill. He basically said that she'd been doing the role perfectly fine up until then. Why stop now? One piece of casting in the film, though, brought back a scene into the film that was originally cut from the musical, but was present in the original film, and that was the role of Arthur Denton, the masochist dental patient, as played in the film by Bill Murray. And basically, Bill Murray ad-libbed that entire scene. If you don't believe me, go back and listen to the genius that is Bill Murray.
Thank you! Oh, yeah. Thank you!
Now, aside from the little differences that I just mentioned, one of the big significant things that separates the two films and the musical from each other is that each ends slightly differently. In the original Roger Corman film, after committing various murders in order to feed the plant, Audrey Jr., and being pursued by the police, Seymour attempts to kill the plant by climbing inside and hacking at it, only for the film to end on a cliffhanger of him appearing as a face in one of the plant's many pods. The musical also ends with Seymour dying, but it also involves the unfortunate death of his beloved Audrey, who is then fed to the plant. And when Seymour attempts to kill Audrey too in a similar manner to the original, he is similarly eaten, and trimmings from the plant are taken by a marketing executive called Philip Martin, who goes on to sell them all over the country, which leads to America being consumed by man-eating plants. This version of the ending, as it appears in the musical, would have made its way into Frank Oz's film, and was shot with that in mind, with a scene in which giant Audrey 2 animatronics, which were created by the Jim Henson Company, consuming New York and climbing up the Statue of Liberty. Studio executives were resistant to this version of the ending, but Frank Oz and Howard Ashman, who wrote the musical and the screenplay, insisted on keeping it the same. However, after several disastrous test screenings across America, in which audiences openly revolted against the tragic end to Seymour and Audrey, Frank Oz had no choice but to reshoot a happy ending for the film, or else the film would not be distributed at all. However, a black and white workprint version of the ending was available on early pressings of the Little Shop of Horrors DVD until they were recalled, to be replaced by a finished and colorized version of the ending in the recent director's cut version of the DVD, which came out last year, I believe.
Rafe! Oh, I'm gonna get a candy bar! I'm gonna get a candy bar! Come on!
Now, as I said before, the original 1960s Little Shop of Horrors was written by Charles Griffith, but the musical, which came out in 1982 off-Broadway, was written by composer Alan Menken and lyricist Howard Ashman. Now, if either of those names sound familiar to you, it would be because they were involved in quite a few Disney films. Menken and Ashman also collaborated on The Little Mermaid, and Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast. And Alan Menken has continued to write songs for Disney films such as Pocahontas and Hercules and The Hunchback of Notre Dame. He also wrote the song Star Spangled Man from Captain America: The First Avenger. However, Howard Ashman was unluckily not able to have as prolific a career as Alan Menken did. He unfortunately died of AIDS at the age of 40 years old in 1991, and whilst he wrote extensively for The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, and also had a very major influence on Beauty and the Beast, he is even thanked in the end credits of that film. Howard Ashman unfortunately did not live long enough to see Beauty and the Beast become the massive success that it eventually did become. However, the thing I take away from this is that Howard Ashman's legacy is one of bringing people together and of expanding people's horizons. And I like to think that his influence not only extends to The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast, which are often referred to as the high watermarks of Disney's Renaissance period, as it's often referred to, but also in the way that the Walt Disney Company has very much been associated more recently with advocacy and acceptance of the LGBT community and its work to diversify the canon in terms of alternative lifestyles and acceptance of minorities. And this from a company that hasn't always had the best relationships with minorities. That can only be a good thing. And that's my vlog on Little Shop of Horrors. At the moment there are still way too many tickets available for our show. We want to get as much of a packed house as we can. It's less than a week away, and it will be at the Lincoln Performing Arts Centre on Brayford Wharf in central Lincoln, Lincolnshire. If you can get down there, tickets are cheap. If you like musicals, if you don't like musicals, bring a friend, bring a date, bring your mum, bring your kids, bring your little sister, anyone who you can wrangle into coming. We really want to make this as successful a show as we possibly can. You can book your tickets online at lpac.co.uk. Link will also be in the description. Or you can come down in person and pick your tickets up from the box office itself. But whatever you do, no matter how great your curiosity and whatever they offer you, don't feed the plants. Raggedy Adams out.